where deals are made.
Absolutely. And I think that right now, I mean, look at where we are in the world, and you've got an opportunity right now. State of Michigan is just like every other state in the nation. We're setting records. We set a record in 2020. We're going to set a record in 2021 again of new corporation filings. This year, we'll have more corporations that have been filed, in the state of Michigan than ever before. And last year was the same thing. The American workforce understands exactly what I started with. If your name's not on the building, right, you're building somebody else's business. And today you have an opportunity for $25 or $50 to open up your own LLC, get your own bank account, open up your own business credit card, and start building your own business. And real estate investing and brokerage gives you such a tremendous opportunity to do that, right, in ways that other careers don't. So I think that, over the next year, maybe 2.5 years, let's say, we're going to see incredible trends that are gonna make the opportunity of owning your own business and running your own business or doing your own investments even more lucrative. I mean, if you look at this hyperinflationary period that we're entering into, where U.S. government has printed $10 trillion, we're seeing rental rates going through the roof. I predict in the next 2 to 5 years, you're going to look at your average monthly rental rate in a market and compare it to what it was in 2021, and you're going to be laughing. I mean, the opportunity today for U.S. corporations to grow. You look at freight costs. You look at all the different geopolitical events that are going on. I think that we're going to be really building the U.S. economy and building U.S. businesses for a long time. And U.S.-based real estate is incredibly valuable. I mentioned before that in 2005 I started that Disability Made Easy, barrier-free home modification company. And my best friend's father, Joe Rothenberg, who we kind of was the impetus for starting the company. He always used to say when I was a kid, he used to say, buy land, they stop making it. And it's absolutely true. I mean, especially U.S. land, it's so valuable. There's so much opportunity. And, Zach, you can tell by his cowboy hat, I have the slick back hair. I'm more of the city guy, right? I like selling buildings. Zach maybe is a little bit more of a land brokerage guy. And that's a whole other arena that many people don't even know exists. I mean, you've got acres and acres and acres and acres of land all over the country that are being developed. I just had dinner last night with an individual that I was in Hebrew school with like 30 years ago. We had dinner last night. He's based here in Michigan, and he's a land developer, and he does infill subdivision building in all of Michigan and Austin, Texas, which is where Zach lives. Zach and I were just in Austin, in October. We had a meeting with Joe Williams from Keller Williams. Keller Williams is one of the many large commercial and residential brokerage houses that has taken to the CRE Pro course. We were sitting there with Joe, and I remember we were talking about, hey, Joe, I always like picking people's brains, especially people that are older than me, more experienced than me, more successful than me. We're picking his brain, and we're asking, hey, Joe, what are you up to these days? And he told us, he said his group has shifted all of their real estate investment to land entitlements. All they're doing is buying land outside of Austin, entitling it, and selling it. And he went through and told us deal after deal after deal. And there's just kind of a quick story I'll never forget, and this is probably going to make Zach laugh. We're sitting there at lunch, and I've known Joe for a long time. He's a very sweet guy. I mean, Joe Williams, you say that name to anybody, he's a powerhouse. Him and Gary Keller changed the entire brokerage landscape forever, over the last 30 years. So we were talking to Joe, and he was talking about how in the 90s, I think, what did he say? He had maybe 160 offices or something like that. And he was talking about what it was like having all those offices. So I stopped him. I said, Joe, how many offices do you have today? Zach, what was his answer?
It was something like 350. And I go, oh, that's pretty good. And he goes, 350,000, Zach. And I was like, whoa. All right. I just got put in my place by Joe. I was like, oh, that's good. You almost doubled it. And he goes like, 1,000. So yeah.
350,000. Zach had to walk. Zach was laughing so hard for like 5 minutes. And I mean, my jaw was on the floor. Joe Williams is a guy that was recruiting agents on college campuses. That's how he got his start, right? And now he's managing hundreds of thousands of offices of agents all over the world. I mean, that just goes to tell you that if you have the hard work ethic, if you're honest, and if you have good training, good mentors, and you have a solid plan to follow, you're almost guaranteed to have success. And in real estate, the success is it's boundless. I mean, you can have an unlimited earning potential in these careers.
So let's keep it on today's market, Dan. And if I'm entering entering real estate, I just passed my exam. Of course, I've already taken the CRE Pro course. I have a solid foundation. What would you advise me? What should I do? I mean, I want to be in brokerage. I want to make a lot of money. I want to solve problems in my community, and I want to provide value. What would you recommend that I do?
Do the same thing every single day. What that means is whatever your system's going to be in, and by the way, the preamble to that is make sure you've got a good mentor and you're in a good team, in a good brokerage house, whatever that means for you. And if you need help deciding what that means for you, reach out to me. I'm happy to have some dialogue and discussion and help you find what's right for you. Once you find that, set up your systems, set up your day. And in the course, we talk all about time blocking and about different, call blitzes and other sales techniques to delegate time specifically to certain activities. Those are things I learned while I was at Amazon as the top business development executive in the entire corporation. So take those strategies, take those systems and do them every single day. If you've committed to time blocking 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock to cold call every single day, do it every single day without excuse. Because what I find is that it's very easy to get overwhelmed when you look at the huge picture. Oh, I got to make $1 million this year. That's so like pie in the sky. That's so, grandiose. It's not boundaried or bordered or at all, easily definable. But if I know that it's 9 o'clock and I got to make cold calls for the next 2 hours, I'm focusing one step at a time. And for me, it's so easy to just set something up and then do the same actions every single day. And, I've read hundreds of these success books. I think most people on this call probably have read a ton of them as well. And if you notice, most highly successful people are just different versions of the same thing. They're doing the same processes over and over and over again. And when you find systems that work, maybe you can tweak them a little bit, but just keep putting your eggs into the baskets that yield you the best fruits. That's what I say. So like for me, Zach, I find that my biggest return on investment is when I take the money that I make in a commission and I reinvest it into my business, in my social media, in my show, my Dan on Top show, right? DanOnTop.com. And in hiring good people. I take that money and I put it right back into my business because that works for me. And when I find like I'm in a rut, I made a commitment. I'm posting on LinkedIn every single day, come hell or high water. If it's 11:59 and I didn't post, I'm scrambling to find something in the next 60 minutes to post. Because even if it's not perfect, persistence beats resistance. That's the bottom line.
I'll give you an example we teach us in the course, but I won't tell you all the secrets, obviously, because many of you have taken the course. But one of them, and I won't call it Tire Kingdom, but something similar, let's say, discount tire, right? Oftentimes, an owner will own multiple of the same type of a building, right? And they'll own a portfolio of them. So oftentimes, and I'm saying, Dan, if you're starting day one, right, you don't have any commission money to spend, and you're saying, okay, I need to generate some business. One of the ideas that we put forward in the course, and ones that we still use today, is using those recent sales that come through and realize that the guy who is buying that property, you buying that portfolio, they're buying the same type of asset, not only in your neighbor or not only in your community, but maybe all across the country. So if you see these come through, right, there's a lot of opportunities of a LoopNet or, actually even in your local business journals, just to see what is selling and what has been bought and look at who the buyer is on that and or the seller in either case, and approach them with a market analysis to say, hey, I know that you have just purchased in downtown Detroit, but in Lansing, I recognize that there's not as many discount tire stores, and this would be where I would put it. Oh, by the way, did you know that there is an availability of this building right here? I have exclusive networking ability with a current broker who's listing it. What do you think if I reach out to him and try to help you buy that building? So providing that value there, seeing that you've taken interest in what they're trying to do, offering that up. And it's not just that one. Think about how many people own a portfolio of discount tires in the entire country. So now you can start reaching out more and more and more. And just using that little knowledge right there of reaching out for the recent sales, or, and Dan, and I know that you use this a lot, particularly in the 1031 realm, is somebody that's sitting on top of 1031 money or any type of capital gains in the future is now going to need to deploy that money again. What do you think they're looking for? They're looking for a similar asset that they understand that it's just made them a bunch of money and they want to increase that portfolio. Maybe they want to double the size of it and relever. So I think it's really important to give some ideas of how to be active in those hours, Dan. Like, yeah, you should be on the phone or you should be sending out those LinkedIn updates and so on, but define yourself, right? If it's about the newest shutdown of CVS's or what Boots and Walgreens Boots is doing, post that on your LinkedIn and define
Yes.
yourself as somebody who is selling a triple net property inside of this particular market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's two things I want to touch on with that is, one of the things that's been my motto. I mean, we so much, it's our motto is that, we put it on our cups, provide value and everything else follows. And that's what I tell everyone is like, I'm not a broker. I'm an advisor. I'm here to advise and to add value. I'm so fortunate because I don't wake up to make money. I wake up to add value. The money follows. You provide value, everything else follows from there. And I think that you brought up a really good point. I mean, we have an opportunity here to have access to an incredible community on LinkedIn. And that's one of the things in the course, we actually have an exclusive LinkedIn community for CRE Pro Course members, which is incredibly powerful. That's something we can talk to you guys about if you want, some more information offline. But what I find is like, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn because the Barry Wolfs of the world, the Zach Roesingers of the world, the Gabe Jonases, the Matt Walls of the world, the Beth Azors of the world, the Carly Iaconos, they're all there. They're all adding their value and providing that information. And that just gives us all more information to provide to our clients. You touched on something very important. I just posted, I think it was 2 days ago, that in terms of Walgreens Boots Alliance, Walgreens is a company. The Walgreens Boots Alliance is Walgreens in the United States, as well as, Europe and United Kingdom. They're an incredible tenant. I mean, that's a credit tenant. There's Walgreens pretty much in every main intersection, of every city in the country. And there's an announcement that they are employing a large investment banking firm to discuss the sale of the Boots part of the Walgreens Boots Alliance, which is 2,200 stores. I was just speaking tonight with Jim, right prior to this call, about investing in Istanbul and Turkey and in other places outside of the United States, and about how the change in currency, right? The change in the exchange rates between other foreign currencies and the United States currency makes real estate opportunities even greater today. He was telling me that the currency exchange between the dollar and the currency in Istanbul used to be about 7-1, and now it's 12-1. So the buying power of the US dollar has went up tremendously. We were discussing the Walgreens Boots Alliance deal because Jim had read my post on LinkedIn, ironically. And, we were discussing how, many United States corporations are closing off those borders and focusing on the US parts of the corporation, which will only further distance that, that divide between the United States economy and the foreign economies, which again, it's all currency arbitrage. It's all real estate arbitrage. So as an investor, I'm looking at that article and putting it on LinkedIn because my clients want that value, but also myself as an investor, I'm thinking to myself, whoa, wait a minute. If Walgreens is separating from their, counterpart in overseas, what is that going to do to the global economy and to global real estate opportunities? So I think it's really important for all of us to constantly question, constantly, review, constantly get that great content from great, individuals like George and like other people that are on this call, and really understand, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my family, for my kids? What does that mean for the world? What does that mean for our clients, right? Because really today, with all this volatility, there is so much opportunity. One of the things I learned years ago from one of my mentors is that fear drives market inefficiencies. And when you have an inefficient market, you have an opportunity to make tremendous amounts of money. And the way that you do that is exactly like I said before. You stay true to your principles. If your principles are to underwrite like this, right, and to buy things that are in these parameters, and everyone else is going all over the place because there's fear in the marketplace, and you stay true to your principles and you keep your head down, right, you mash the gas and you ignore the noise, you will succeed. So today, with all the fear in the marketplaces in the world and in geopolitics, everything, there's just an incredible opportunity to really step it up and take it to the next level.
Let me ask you, Dan, do you believe, in that same vein, do you believe that it's an advantage to come with an alternative idea or to remain the same? And I don't know if there's a right answer for this, and I'm interested in what, and I'll give you the example. So as we were talking about it, CVSs are shutting down. I think it's like 900 or 900 stores. So not a lot of things look like a CVS, right? The building it's on a main and main corner. It's where you would want to put a pharmacy, and it's maybe not right next to a large supermarket, but it's convenient for a neighborhood to go there, get your pharmacy stuff. Oh yeah, and by the way, to get to the pharmacy, you need to walk through like 50 aisles to get back there. And oh yeah, I may need some toilet paper, may need some cleaning solution, whatever it is. So you're picking up these things. So that's how they're making their money, a majority of them, not just the pharmacy. So if you think about that, like who is
utilizing that, do you think it's necessary as a broker to
approach, like in that case, like the Walgreens situation, say CVS in my local area is closing down. I've got a great client for you, and start reaching out to people who own Walgreens? Or do you think it's better to come in with an alternative idea and say, hey, this thing that's on Main and Main, we know that in this area we're lacking, let's just say office space, like suburban office space, and we can turn this into a co-working space, and here's why. What do you think it's better to do in today's climate?
So great question. So I always am a fan of going to the genius of a situation, right? Looking back to what actually created the situation. So if we rewind, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, when all these we call them net bond deals, these absolute triple net or double net Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid deals were being put together. I want to look back at what happened then to see why we're at where we're at now. So if you look back then, what was going on? These developers were building these huge, like you said, main on main intersections, these buildings that are basically, they all look the same. They're a box with a corner chopped off that has incredible visibility and access. And they're typically very large, right? Very large brick or block buildings, maybe approximately 15,000 square feet. So developers were building these, and they were getting paid a lot of money to develop them and build them, and they were getting huge tenants in. And in order to support the prices, when they were bringing in these tenants, they were signing them for massive, massive dollar amounts per square foot. And if you look at like your average, Walgreens or CVS across the country, you might be looking at $240, $250, $300, $400,000 in annual rent from a single tenant, which is quite high, right? So, and that was back then. That was before there were any rental bumps or any extensions or new leases. So now, fast forward, you've got a big box, which is going to be pretty hard to fill. Most tenants want smaller boxes today, and you've got incredibly high rents that are in many cases out of line with the market. So even if you're going to repurpose when they vacate and put in, let's say, a Dollar Tree, and by the way, now that I said it, I'm sure you'll be driving around and you'll be in some area and you'll see a dollar store and say, wait a minute, that dollar store looks like a Rite Aid, or that dollar store looks like a CVS. The answer is, yeah, it was one, and now it's another dollar store.
I'm about to call every Dollar Tree in my neighborhood.
But hold on.
Okay.
But here's the challenge, though, Zach, is you could get a dollar store in there to fill, but now they're going to have to replace that same rent. And if I'm a dollar store, why would I want to go there when I can pay 80, 90, or 100,000 as an end cap, in a shopping center, or maybe, an old a dollar store location where I'm only going to pay 100 grand, even as a freestanding location. And furthermore, as a broker, if I have a Dollar Tree that's a former CVS or a former Walgreens, my market of potential buyers is more limited, because keep in mind, they're going to be paying also that astronomically high rent. And if they leave, I'm going to have to be tasked with the same problem of replacing, with a tenant that's going to be able to absorb that kind of rent per square foot, which is a very small pool. So today, I think the real question is, what's next? And if you ask me, I tell it like it is. To me, I love the pharmacy market. I understand why institutions like it. I understand why banks like it. I understand why funds like it. To me, most pharmacy deals are over-glorified dollar stores with a drive-through for medicine. Okay, that's what they are. They're over-glorified dollar stores with a drive-through for medicine, which, by the way, in lower income areas, they're always going to do well. But if you look at the way the world is heading with this omni-channel fulfillment, where consumers can buy things however they want, and with e-commerce and with Amazon, Amazon owns PillPack. Amazon has gotten into the pharmacy space, and Amazon has there's been announcements over the last 6 months. Major employers are forcing their employees to fill prescriptions through Amazon. So that's going to have major impacts on these 15,000 square foot buildings. Now, if you ask me today, you've got three major players in the pharmacy space. You've got Rite Aid, Walgreens, and CVS. I think that in 10 years or less, there will be only two remaining, if that. I think that Rite Aid is going to go the way of the dinosaur. And the reason that I think that is because Walgreens and CVS both produce their own pharmaceuticals. Rite Aid does not. Walgreens and CVS both have their own health systems, like Aetna Health and Minute Clinic and walk-in services. Rite Aid does not. So those behemoths, and CVS and Walgreens are closing stores in droves now because they understand there's a storm that's coming, and they want to buckle down, focus on their highest performing stores and the stores that provide medical services. Because if there's one thing that
I have a prediction for you, Dan, just based on what you said there, and you guys are more than welcome to take this idea if you want to. Why does Dollar Tree not have a pharmacy? Why wouldn't? Because that's where you're exactly right. Like, if I live in a wealthy neighborhood, I can have Amazon delivered to me. If I live in a tough neighborhood, someone's going to steal my drugs off the front of my house, and I can't have my diabetes medicine. So I got to go somewhere to pick it up in person. So the things that in my neighborhood, down the street from my neighborhood, are Dollar Tree or Dollar General, one of the two. And you're right, they don't serve fresh fruit, but I need a pharmacy. I don't need fresh fruit. I go to the grocery store for the fresh fruit. So, I'm thinking that the Dollar Tree, Dollar General gets into the pharmacy business.
And that's a good point. I think that today what we're noticing, and I look at it like social media, if you notice a feature coming up on one platform, you're like, oh, that looks like this platform. And then you come on here and you're like, oh, well, they're doing this story. And that's what things resemble more and more the same as they become optimized. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that different types of retailers in the commercial space are resembling each other, right? Like a great example is what you mentioned. If Dollar Tree or Dollar General wants to add pharmaceuticals, now they're going to be more like those pharmacy stores. And if you notice, like a lot of the retailers are now having an experiential component in their retail store, because they don't want you to go home and sit in front of your computer and buy only on Amazon. They want you to come into the store. And what's really interesting to me, this is a whole other, is the whole NFT space and the whole metaverse space and the whole idea of, well, hey, everything that we're doing tonight, we're doing by way of the airwaves and the ether and Zoom and iPhones and all that stuff. The shopping experience is largely online today. And what's incredible is, just like 2-3 weeks ago, there was a new record set. There was a mall in the metaverse, like an NFT mall, if you're not an NFT, a digital mall, if you will, that was sold for like $1.1 or $1.2 million. It set a record. And I was talking to my daughter, Esty. I don't know if she's still on the call. I love talking real estate with her. And she said to me, she calls me Tati, which is daddy in Yiddish. She says, Tati, why would anybody pay $1 million for a digital mall? I said, well, think about it. Let's say that you and I wanted to go shopping, right? We wanted to get on our iPhones and we wanted to go visit the mall. But as soon as we walk in the mall, what do we see? We see an advertisement for Lululemon. And then once we walk past that, there's an advertisement for Nike. And you might say, hey, Tati, I want some Lululemon headbands. Boom, press a button, buy the headband. And she's like, oh, okay, that makes total sense. And when I heard it through the mind of a 12-year-old, I said, you know what? Gosh darn it, she's right. That does make total sense. I was reading a post on LinkedIn just 2 days ago that this whole like digital real estate landscape is going to provide the most efficient and cheapest method of consumer testing that we've ever experienced, right? Because these major retailers can beta test through all these people that are sitting on their couches to see what happens when they go in these digital malls and there's a Lululemon advertisement, or there's an advertisement for Grubhub or Panda Express, and people just click a button, and while they're walking through the mall, somebody brings over that Grubhub, somebody brings over that Lululemon headband or something like that. I'm just super excited to see what the next few years hold, and I think that with this proliferation of our digital transformation into a new era and this industrial revolution that we're going through, and these are all things we talk about in the course, we've got so much opportunity. I mean, I told you they stopped making, buy land, they stopped making it, right? Well, that's true. And people, that is so true that Mark Zuckerberg is now creating digital land, right? I think that it's just mind blowing. And oftentimes when I see things through the eyes of my students or through the eyes of my children, it really opens things up. Anybody else have anything you want to talk about? Any questions or stories you want to share? Anybody want to introduce themselves? I'm kind of losing my voice here, so I want to spread the love.
Curious to hear your opinion of I have a friend, an old executive friend, who is in the retail outlet space across the world and country. And I haven't recently talked with him, but I'm just curious. I've heard through the pandemic, and not to get into all that crap, you're killing businesses, seeing that and seeing a lot of stores go under, or more and more Zoom meetings are happening, and office space, I'm sure people are realizing, hey, a lot more people, I've always said I could do my job from home at least 3 or 4 days a week. So I'm sure now all of this has been a reality to businesses, to seeing how much more they can downsize. Hearing you say that they're getting rid of or downsizing the Walgreens and the CVS's, like, to me, that just, and hearing him talking about their stresses, because everybody's shopping online. So there's not so much of a need for all these retail outlets. I hear a lot of space available. What is going in it, or what new businesses are coming? Even if you conform and now an old Walgreens becomes a Dollar General, we we first of all have too many Dollar Generals. And
Dollar General, they're building 1,000 locations this year.
Oh my God, this is crazy. Oh crap, from China, by the way. Anyway, how is this justifiable that you feel that this space is going to be utilized up? Why aren't we knocking down old stuff? How are people justifying building new things or even repurposing old things when it seems like everyone seems to just be hunking down?
Yeah, so I'll give you the cynical answer. I think is actually the truth. If you look at like the Truman administration, you look at many administrations during war times, they were building roads, destroying them, and building them again, right? These jobs acts were designed to create jobs, to build commerce. And I think that a lot of the stuff that goes on in this country, quite frankly, is that. So I think that there's a lot of that going on. But my I guess more practical PC answer for you is that I believe that there's going to be a really incredible synergy between the industrial and the retail. And if you look at, like, here's somebody wants to become a billionaire, take this idea and run with it. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the chain Kmart. Kmart was like the biggest name in retail in the 80s and 90s. And if you look even in Michigan, I have like 3 or 4 vacant Kmarts in my inventory off market that I'm trying to sell. Okay. So here's the idea. Kmarts are 100, 150, 200,000 square foot boxes. They're like the least desirable retail commercial real estate spaces that exist today, but they're incredibly well located. They have great visibility and they have huge parking lots. So the idea I have here, and this is just kind of pivot from this, but the idea is you take that fulfillment center, right? They've got loading docks in the back and levelators, which are very expensive. I don't know if people know this, but in industrial properties, you have what's called a levelator, because when a semi comes loaded, it can be as much as like 18 inches lower than when it's unloaded. So when the semi pulls in unloaded, it's up here. The docks have these levelators that go up and down to match the height of the truck. They get loaded, they go out. So you still have all that, which is incredibly expensive and valuable, in the backside of the Kmart. In the front side of the Kmart, you can chop it up into all different types of uses, right? Dialysis, what we call medtail, medical retail. So dialysis, urgent care, dentists, things like that. You have an opportunity to put something in there, maybe a salon, maybe a pizza store, maybe a cannabis dispensary. And then in front, now you don't need all that parking anymore. So in front, you can chop up and put what's called an out parcel, which is a section of the parking lot, which is developed into other retail stores. And you can put micro fulfillment centers so that trucks can come in the back of those, load up the goods and leave. And I think what we're seeing a lot of these combinations of retail industrial in one, because people don't need nearly as large of a storefront anymore. But if you can get the goods closer to the people and also have foot traffic, you can have the retail uses and the high rent per square foot, which is typical of out parcels. And you also have the opportunity to now enhance the infrastructure for the supply chain. So you're moving more and more of the goods into like last mile statuses and closer to the population. So I think that what we're going to see is just a very big combination of the industrial and retail mixed together. I think that my bigger concern is really the office market, because office space is very poorly planned and designed and utilized for anything other than office. I mean, close your eyes and think about what it's like going into a typical retail experience. You walk right in, the sign is right there, the cash register is there, the goods are right in front of you. Walking into an office building, you go to this huge office building, usually doesn't have many signs on it. You park, you walk in, there's a mezzanine, there's a lobby, there's expensive chandeliers and all that nonsense. And then you walk around a corner, make another turn, you walk into an office, there's now a nice receptionist, and then you turn the corner, there's this suite, this suite, this suite. If you repurpose that to anything else, you basically have to take everything out of it first. So I think that the office market, my eyes are on that big time. I would be shaking in my boots if I owned office. Now, we've got a good friend. I mentioned him 2 or 3 times on this call. I was just with him in Mexico last week, Ben Kogut, and his syndication team. They specialize in suburban multi-tenant office space, which is very contrarian, but they specialize in it because they're buying it very well, at 10, 12, 14 caps, and they believe that there's always going to be a need for it. So I guess my answer to you is that every single property has a highest and best use, and eventually it will either disintegrate or it will turn to that highest and best use. And I think that's the beauty of who we are as people, is we have ingenuity and we have an ability to redesign and repurpose things. And I think as investors, I couldn't be more excited. Like, I've got some projects right now that are, repositioning of retail or repositioning of office buildings. And to me, it's like there's going to be so much opportunity to take things that used to work and then didn't really work and then really didn't work and now they're useless and make them into something that's really valuable.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 So I'm excited. It's a good time to be alive.
Yeah, that's amazing, Dan. I just love your answers, understanding a lot of things on a much deeper level. Great session. All right, anything else, Aubrey? You've never been at a loss for words. You still there with us? I don't know. Maybe she's on to something else. Oh, here she is, Aubrey.
No, I was driving. Whenever I don't have a camera on, it's usually because I'm driving. So I just landed. My destination. No, thank you very much, Dan, for the presentation. I listened to all of it, and I love the way you're very descriptive and very passionate about the different things that can take place, which means you're very well diverse within your local communities, and more importantly, with what can take place as far as value add. One of the things I'll say about the Kmarts, what are your thoughts about turning a Kmart or repositioning it into a self-storage unit? Because it seems like that would potentially be
I love it. I think that people always need to store their things. I mean, I'm an avid car collector. I love cars. And one of my biggest challenges is where do I store the vehicles? I think that, if you look at statistics, people will sooner pay to keep their storage unit, right? They'll pay the $100 a month for their couches that are worth nothing for years and years and years. And once people have that psychologically, they've had that commitment, right? I've been paying for so long, I got to keep paying. I think storage is amazing. I just had a meeting last night with an individual who does a lot of development, and we were talking about a concept. On my show, I interviewed Masha Klapanova on my show. You can watch, by the way, you can watch all my episodes on danontop.com. So, she's a self-storage investor. We talk a lot. And one of the things she does is she doesn't just go build new self-storage or buy new self-storage. She takes existing real estate and then carves out something that's not being used, whether it's a field or it's a excess parking or it's a dumpster enclosure or something, or it's a basement, and she builds storage units to increase the cash flow and optimize the property. I think it's brilliant. And I think that the more that we're in a transient society where people are moving and changing jobs and having all these major life changes, the more storage is going to be important. I really love the whole shipping container concept. I've always wanted to build with shipping containers and to do storage with shipping containers. And I think that, we're going to just see a need as Americans accumulate more things and move more often. Storage is definitely something that is exciting, and I highly recommend people looking into it. No doubt.
That's a great, I like your question, Jennifer. My answer to that is let the market decide, right? Like either I bring it to my clients and say, hey, why don't we put self-storage here? Or they come to me and say, hey, I need some place to put my self-storage. And I say, great, there's a Kmart that's available in my inventory. Would this be a good location based on your metrics? So a lot of times it's let the market decide, and people will decide with their dollars. Even today, and I know this happens in Michigan and it happens here in Texas, we decide where we're going to eat based on whether we agree with mask mandates or not. So it's the same sort of with everything else. It's that we, as the people, get to decide what we're going to do. And if you see a need in the market, it's a great opportunity for you to push that or to at least open the minds of some of your clients to say, what do you think about putting Dollar General is not a great fit in this location. However, we need whatever it is, a great pho restaurant or something in the neighborhood because people really love pho or whatever. So yeah, let the market decide. But a lot of times that's our job as brokers is to, I don't know, enlighten, but like put the idea out there. And as Dan does a lot on his LinkedIn, say, by the way, I'm an expert at Tire Kingdom, and Tire Kingdom guys will reach out to you and say, I would love to have a Tire Kingdom in this and now defunct part of the Kmart, for example.
Right.
Great question, Jennifer.
Awesome. Last chance, going once, going twice, going 3 times.
Aubrey, who's in your background?
That's her.
Oh, it's you. You were in front of your head.
I'm on my mobile. I'm on my mobile because I was driving when we started. So I waited till I actually walked in the house. So that's why this one was up.
That should have been the fourth element we talked about there, Dan. Always be your own best advocate.
Like branding. How about we can talk about branding? Especially
if you look that good. I don't blame you.
It's always a great day to have a great day.
And, oh, come on. This guy has a cutout of his own head.
With the tie.
He may challenge you for the biggest self-advocate right there.
Oh, I don't know why he has his. Mine is at least so you know who's on the other end when I have my screen on.
It was a gift.
Right.
I will say
right.
this, Dan, when you mentioned storage for cars, I'm actually located in Miami, Florida, and that is
Really?
a hot topic.
Oh my
That
gosh.
we have
so
them
much
left and
to
right.
do.
We have them left and right.
It's crazy.
Our
I had-
AT cars, etc., everything.
We're so in Metro Detroit, we're the Motor City. There's a retail redevelopment that I was working on that literally like it's a building that has no purpose. It has no use. There's like 5 parking spaces outside. And I was like, well, it's on Woodward, which is M1. It's the first paved road in America. It's got 120,000 vehicles per day. Let's park inside the building. Let's turn this into exotic vehicle storage. We can rent those spaces out for $300 per month per spot. That's $3,600 a month per spot. And for every 1,000 square feet of ground space, my hands are so dusty right now because I'm in my basement. For every 1,000 square feet of space, you can fit 7 cars on, laterally and another 6 on lifts above. I mean, you do the math. You're not going to find another tenant, maybe aside from cannabis, that's going to pay you more per square foot. I would love to link up with you. I've got some really good dealer friends in Miami, and I actually have a hotel deal in Fort Lauderdale that I've been working on for a long time. Would love to connect because I think there's a great synergy, especially, you take I-75 and head south I don't care where you are in Florida, I'll hit you. You know what I mean? And I think there's a great opportunity to link Detroit and Florida by way of cars. I'd love to talk more about with that with you all offline.
That identification is really good there, Albrecht, because I'm just flew in from Cabo last night, and there's not enough places to put your boat. Like people can't put their boat, and you know this about Miami, right? Miami cars and boats, right?
Here's the beauty of that. The family that actually runs the boat show, I know them.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's all connect on LinkedIn and make sure that we find ways to do deals out of this seminar.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, just that one idea right there, Albrecht. The same idea. If you talk to the whoever's selling the most boats in your area, think about it. They're selling the boat, but then they got to have somewhere to put the boat. RV storage, car storage, all these things that they're creating the demand. And the way that Dan and I started the course, I just kind of circle back to it, is identifying the need, right? People said, I have a need to learn how to broker commercial real estate. And we said, great. And to your price point, if you say, I don't know what it's going to cost, or I don't know what I should be charging, or what I need to enter the deal with, that's all we did. We said, how much do you pay right now? And they said, $1,000. We said, great, we'll charge you half of that, and we'll provide twice the value. Same sort of thing as this. And then you enter into that negotiation with a baseline to say, I've identified a need, I've identified a resource, and I know how much people are going to pay. You're really writing your own check at that point. So great identification of a need right there.
Yep, and you see the boats on a regular basis because I'm actually in Coral Gables, and then I have a place also at close to Las Olas as well. So it's like all the main points.
I can't bring my boat here to Texas, right? I have to leave it somewhere, and so I have to pay to put it into a marina, and I have to pay somebody, and the more the less amount of space, or the more boats that there are, which there are a plethora of them now, I have to pay more and more and more and I will, because what is my other alternative? I could get rid of the boat, then I wouldn't have a boat. So I'm going to pay it. So I think that's a great identification, just looking around and the needs that exist and finding out where that market is, and then diving in on that idea. I know Dan has done that with his race cars. He sees that he would like his race car closer to his house. So then he starts looking at opportunities, just like you talked about, to solve the need for the problem that exists in his mind and in others' minds.
Find an excuse to turn my hobby into a business.
I don't think you need an excuse. If it's a necessity for you, chances are it is for someone else too. So now you just go find those.
Help him convince his wife that his race cars are a necessity.
Exactly.
Hey, tell her that's how you get home faster.
There you go. What a salesman. I love it.
No, my dad actually, him and his friends build those in their free time, so I get it.
There you go. Well, it's really been a pleasure. I'm really enjoyed connecting with everybody here, and there's anything I can do to add value, please reach out. Let's have some fun. Let's do some deals and let's become wealthy.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, George. Thank you very much for the platform.